The information that has been revealed with the release of some of the Epstein files and some of the correspondence within it is continuing to haunt the royal family. Charles, Camilla, and now William have all seen themselves heckled, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And in my opinion, it's an extremely small price to pay for the crime that they are committing of protecting the monster among them. William, Charles, and Camilla, and Kate can say all day that they protect and they stand with and they honor and they respect and their thoughts are with the victims. But their actions say something extremely different. My concern is no longer with why are they protecting Andrew, but also who else among them might they also be protecting? Their names are all up and through the Epstein files. And I feel like as the Epstein files continue to get released to the public, we're going to learn a lot more that maybe we weren't expecting. That's just a hunch. But the fact that they're protecting him so vigorously at their own expense makes me wonder if he's casting a shadow over something else that they don't want us to know or to see. More questions are arising as people are continuing to get more and more frustrated at the lack of transparency, but even worse, the lack of accountability. Thank you so much for clicking on my video, and if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at an article in Feminagra titled Epstein Files Haunt Royals as Prince William is Heckled in Saudi Arabia and King Charles faces heckling in the UK. But before we get into that, if you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share so that more people can find us. Once again, this article is in Feminagra and it's linked in the description box below under sources. Prince William's latest overseas trip was meant to spotlight youth sport and diplomacy. Instead, it reopened a scandal the royal family has spent years trying to outrun. While visiting Saudi Arabia on February 10, 2026, William was questioned in public about Prince Andrew's links to Jeffrey Epstein. The exchange was brief, but the clip spread quickly online. It showed that distance, time, and carefully worded palace statements have not buried the issue. For many observers, the monarchy's refusal to fully confront the allegations and clarify what it knew about Andrew's Epstein ties is now following it everywhere, creating mounting public backlash. The moment in Saudi Arabia did not happen in isolation. Just a day earlier, King Charles also faced shouted questions during a separate engagement in the United Kingdom. In both cases, the heckles referenced newly unsealed U.S. Department of Justice files that have renewed attention on Prince Andrew's past dealings and correspondence. William has previously described himself as deeply concerned about Andrew's association with Epstein. Yet when confronted again in front of cameras, he avoided direct answers and moved on with the event. The contrast between firm words in press releases and silence in public settings has frustrated critics who believe the royal family still hopes the issue will fade if they refuse to engage. Now, my thoughts on that is the royal family will continue to play from a very, very, very old, ancient, archaic playbook. They are no match for the memory of the internet, whose memory is very long and will never let you forget and demand transparency and accountability. And until they're ready to deliver that, they may as well hang it up. They will never know peace.
Sir, to what extent do you think the royal family has done enough around the Andrew and Epstein issue?
Buckingham Palace continues to issue statements expressing concern for victims of abuse. However, these statements rarely address the specifics that the public is asking about. The result is a cycle where new documents emerge, public anger arises, and the palace responds with broad sympathy but little detail. The heckling in 2 different countries within 48 hours shows that this strategy is no longer containing the damage. William's Saudi trip was presented as a visit focused on youth sport, environmental partnerships, and public diplomacy. But the images that traveled fastest online were not football drills or charity moments. They were photographs of him meeting powerful Gulf business and political figures at the very time new Epstein-related documents were dominating headlines. Among the names resurfacing in those files was UAE businessman Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, the chairman and CEO of DP World. Unsealed U.S. Department of Justice records included an email from Jeffrey Epstein referencing a torture video, with filings later acknowledging bin Sulayem as the sender. At the same time, DP World is not a distant name in William's professional orbit. The company is a founding partner of the Earthshot Prize and publicly committed £1 million to the initiative. That overlap turned what might have been a routine diplomatic photo into something far more uncomfortable for critics watching the story unfold. This is now the second time an organization William has been involved with has been linked to Epstein, the first being Wild Aid. Now, he was an ambassador for Wild Aid who received a donation from Jeffrey Epstein. And now we're seeing that bin Sulayem, is part of Earthshot, but also was in the Epstein emails. No less talking about a torture video. Like, it couldn't get any worse. But they're also tied to William. And then William was also mentioned from a British reporter that was also noted in the Epstein files. So that's at least three mentions of William or connections to William in the Epstein files so far. For many observers, the optics were difficult to ignore. The concern was not a direct accusation of wrongdoing by William himself, but the repeated overlap of photographs, donor histories, and resurfacing records across different years. Attention returned to the fact that Jeffrey Epstein donated $50,000 in 2013 to the wildlife charity Wild Aid, the same organization that promoted Prince William as an ambassador that year. Years later, separate, unsealed correspondence placed the name of a major Earthshot Prize partner inside newly discussed files, creating a sense of recurring association rather than a single incident. Even when meetings are framed as environmental or economic diplomacy, the images tend to linger longer than official explanations, especially when earlier donation controversies raise questions about donor screening and oversight rather than isolated coincidence. Online reactions were blunt. Many people said the monarchy often tells the public not to read too much into photos or symbols, yet it also relies on those same images to polish its own reputation. In this case, critics argued the palace wanted everyone to move on from Andrew Epstein questions while still appearing relaxed and smiling beside figures whose names were suddenly back in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Fair or not, once those images spread online, they stick. The feeling growing among people is simple. The public keeps getting asked to move forward, but the institution itself rarely gives clear answers or shows the same level of accountability it expects from others. In the end, the renewed heckling of both William and King Charles shows that the Epstein shadow has not faded. It returns each time new documents are unsealed or fresh photographs circulate. The monarchy's problem is no longer just about distancing itself from past associations. It is about persuading a deeply skeptical public that accountability is applied fairly and not only when pressure becomes unavoidable. That pressure is unlikely to disappear soon. Historian and author Dr. Andrew Lowney, in his book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, has openly speculated that Prince Andrew could one day be pushed to live abroad, even suggesting the Middle East as a possible destination if the fallout becomes politically unmanageable. In that context, Prince William's repeated visits to the region inevitably invite questions about what may be discussed behind closed doors as much as what is shown in public photographs. What has become clear to many critics is that the Andrew Epstein saga did not damage only one individual. The perception that senior royals protected and enabled Andrew continues to ripple outward, affecting trust not just in the royal household but also in the media, government institutions, and even policing bodies that were seen as slow or cautious in their responses. Until clear answers are given, each overseas trip risks reopening the same unresolved debate and reminding the public that this controversy remains very much alive. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. Something else that has kind of been weighing on me when it comes to this whole thing is when it comes to Harry and Meghan, completely separate topic, but follow me here. When it comes to Harry and Meghan, The royals and their courtiers and their sources, etc., they are never at a loss for some kind of quip or jab or dig or comment or insult or criticism directed towards Harry and Meghan through sources in the media. You never have a problem weighing in indirectly when it comes to Harry and Meghan, and they certainly never have a problem being insulting, nasty, rude, brash, etc. When it comes to Andrew, mum's the word. When it comes to Andrew, they feel like, it seems like they're trying to convince us that there's just so much red tape. There's so much protocol. There's only so much they can do. For example, with the whole Royal Lodge thing. Oh, his lease, blah, blah, blah. At what point do you say, okay, we have clauses. We have some kind of conduct clause that definitely supersedes this lease. Certainly, this lease didn't factor in that we would be housing a monster, but it did, which is why the only ramifications for his actions, his monstrous actions, has been to strip him of things he didn't earn nor give a shit about anyway. He still doesn't have to answer for his crimes. What might stop victims from getting justice is the fact that he is not inside of a cell, is the fact that they're not requiring him to give a statement to the oversight committee. There is no justice. And no matter what they strip from this man, justice will not be served. Justice won't be served until he and everyone along with him who was abusing these children is in jail. Unfortunately, a little heckling doesn't go far enough. Sure, it gets the job done here and there, but really, can you even call what happened to William heckling? These are people asking fair questions that should be asked. I feel like calling it heckling is reducing what they're doing. They're asking questions when they have an opportunity because the rest of us would do the same. We want to know, what do y'all plan to do about Andrew? And why are you so vehemently protecting him? Is it because having Andrew firmly in place directs questions and focus at Andrew? And with him out of the way, should justice finally be served, will we then be asking about other members of the royal family who've been named in the Epstein files, namely Prince Edward, who a 12 or 13-year-old girl said she saw on Little St. James Island with Epstein when she was being trafficked? Or will we talk about the several overlapping connections and mutual connections between William and Epstein? Will we finally start drilling down more into that once justice is served with Andrew? Is that why you're keeping Andrew where he is? Until you put him out on his ass and strip him of everything, and that man is just a regular citizen trying to survive, I don't want to hear how you care about the victims, because clearly you don't. That man has blood on his hands in more ways than one. And I'm wondering if the connections that you guys share, namely Epstein, Trump, Maxwell, Wild Aid, Earthshot, all of these things seem very conveniently in proximity to one another. And I'm supposed to believe William knew nothing about Epstein. I'm supposed to believe that William had no knowledge of who that man was and what he did. After a while, if I keep seeing the same name show up in association with me or the organizations that I'm in partnership with, I'm going to stop and say, who is this person? And what do they do? Especially when that person is quite possibly the worst trafficker of all time. I'm going to ask questions. How convenient that this person whose name keeps showing up in proximity to me and the organizations I champion, and one that I even started, and he happens to be a very close confidant of my uncle. I could even drill down even further and say, if William doesn't know how to respond, if Charles doesn't know how to respond, there's someone squarely in the middle of their family who could teach them a thing or two about exploitation, and that's Princess Eugenie, the daughter of the predator they're protecting. Her whole life's work has been protecting people from trafficking, has been ending human exploitation and sex trafficking, as well as domestic servitude and several other things. This is her life's work. If you don't know how to respond in relationship to victims, perhaps you should ask Eugenie. She's right up the way and she's your first cousin. You could absolutely ask her. There seems to be a lot more afoot. There is way more that we could probably expect to come out. And I don't put anything past anybody. Anyone mentioned in those emails, I'm looking at you crazy until proven otherwise. And Andrew is all up and through them. Pictures, videos, personal accounts. I mean, it couldn't get any worse. The worst part, but also the best part, is that all of it isn't even out yet. We still have a lot more information that we can expect to come out. So the royals are in a power position right now where they could proactively go ahead and start turning Andrew over, cleaning up some things, confessing to the royals could absolutely act proactively, or they could wait for it to come out, and then they can wait for the public to demand accountability. I'm just going to be honest. People are tired. People are broke. People are sick of being exploited by the elite, the rich, the wealthy, the protected, privileged class. People are done. If I were them, I would take these questions and say, hey, we better do something, and we better do it now proactively, because once they start shaking the gates, there's not a whole lot between us and them, and there's a whole lot more of them. Some of those emails aren't just trafficking, although that's bad enough. Some of those emails include bodies. Notice I didn't say people. They're protecting something worse than Andrew. And I'm convinced of it. I can't say what because I don't know. I'm just asking fair questions after all this information is coming out. I'm asking questions based on information that is in the public domain. Fair questions. And it doesn't even begin to tip the iceberg. I've seen some of y'all come up with very, very intricate questions that I'm like, how did that not occur to me? Anyway, y'all let me know what you think in the comment section below, but the royals better do something proactively, because I don't think they want to be on the other end of this in a retroactive place. I think this is one of those things that is bigger than them, and they very rarely come up against anything that's bigger than them, and this is that. Trump is also all up and through those files. All up and through. Mar-a-Lago was just a hot spot, wasn't it? It was also all up and through Virginia Giuffre's book, Nobody's Girl. Although she did not explicitly name Trump as one of her abusers, she also didn't say anything about him abusing anyone else, because that wasn't her story. But Mar-a-Lago was a big part of that. I also want to point out that Trump seemed to have a gay old time when it came to William and Kate and Charles and Camilla. They were so chummy with him. There's so many overlapping things that just happen to be coincidences, and I feel like I'm not zooming out far enough to see where they all collide. Where are all these things intersecting? Anyway, or maybe y'all have thought of it. Let me know. What am I missing? Anyway, those are my thoughts. Please don't forget to leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share so that more people can find us. Thanks to those of you who checked out my channel, Chats and Chill. My Melanie from the game video is blowing up. I think it's at 5,000 views. I said, holy guacamole. I've never had a video do that well that I can remember, or at least not this year for sure. So thanks so much for those of you who went over there to check that out. And I can't wait to read your comments. And thanks to everyone who's a member of this channel as well as my Patreon. I hope you're enjoying the exclusive content and the perks. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.